there are some things that I know, that I've heard, that I've been made aware of this week. Things that need to come out in the open, and somebody hasn't revealed it. So what I'd like for you to do right now is I'd like for all of you to stand. I know, kind of weird. All right. One of you guys in here has something that needs to come out. Anybody wanting to say it right now before we go through the process? Okay. Anybody that's got a number 1, you can sit down. Does anybody want to say anything? Anybody that's got a number 9 or 6, since I didn't designate them, you can sit down. He's looking at his number to make sure I shouldn't be sitting. Anybody with a number 5, you can sit down. There's a sense of sigh of relief at that back table back there. Anybody with a number 8 can sit down. Anyone want to say anything? Anybody with a number 3 can sit down. Anybody with a number 2 can sit down. As the eyes move back and forward, is like, is it me or is it you? Anybody with a number 7 can sit down. George. What number have you got, George? Oh, anybody with a number 4 can sit down. You're the only one with a 4. Hank, you're the only one standing. What number do you have? 0. So is there something that you need to talk about? Something you need to say?
I suppose.
Well, then we're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. All right, so we went through that exercise for a purpose. What went through your heads?
What did I do?
That's it. That's it. What did you think about? Take that thought that you just had in your mind. It's like, oh my gosh, he's heard about it. Serious. Oh my gosh, he knows. So I want to tell you a story that's going to tie in with all of that today. And I want you to keep that thought, because whatever that thing was, whatever popped into your head when you were standing up, and especially as somebody, unless you were the first person sitting down, as you stood and you watched other people sit down, what was that feeling inside of you? That fear of something being revealed about you in front of everybody else. What was that thing? Hold on to that thought, because we're going to come back to that. Today I want to tell you a story. It actually comes out of the Bible, and we're going to tie it in with what we did here at the very beginning. And the story is about the Israelites, and we've talked about it before, how the Israelites crossed the Jordan River, Joshua's taken over, Moses is dead. They go up to Jericho. God tells them, walk around it 7 times, shout, blow your trumpets, and the wall will come down. He gave them instructions. He said, you are to kill all of the people inside of there, but everything that's inside of Jericho is mine. So everything God had inside that, he told them, bring that into the temple, that is mine. All right. Shortly after the Battle of Jericho, they have a little smaller city not far up the road called Ai. And they said, Joshua sends 2 spies out, and they go out and he said, we don't have to send that many people. There's not that many men that are in the city. So Joshua sends 3,000 men out, and they get their tails kicked. And they come whimpering back, and they lost 30 some odd men in the Battle of Ai. That's 30 some odd men more than they lost in the Battle of Jericho. And they come back, and all the people in Israel are distraught. Why did this happen? This was a smaller city. It didn't require any big thing of walking around and the walls come tumbling down. It didn't require any of that. Should be a simple cakewalk. Walking in, showing our power, they run for the hills, we knock them off as they're going. But something happened. And so as the men come running back, and as all of the Israelites are distraught, Joshua gets on his face before God. He says, God, why have you done this to us? Why in the world? How can you bring us out of Egypt, and we go through this whole thing with Jericho, and you show your mighty power, and now what are people going to think of you? What are people going to say? All the Canaanites are going to hear about this, and they're going to immediately see that we are weak, and they're going to come in and destroy us. And God looked at Joshua and he said, get up off your face. There is somebody in the camp that has done what I told them not to do. And so Joshua, he commanded Joshua, he said, call all the people together. And Joshua called them together, and he said, today I want you to consecrate yourself, prepare yourself, cleanse yourself, because tomorrow God is going to show us why we lost the battle at Ai. And I can imagine, as the people that night sat inside of their tents and wondering, did I do something? Did I take something from Jericho? Was it that piece of bread that I took because I was so hungry? Was it the food that was laying out there? Maybe it was somebody in my family. Maybe it's my neighbor. Why in the world? And I have to imagine all of the things that went on in their minds that night as they were waiting a whole day before God would tell them who had taken the things that were God's. And I can only imagine in that process that they had to have confessed a lot of things to their family, to their friends, and just trying to get themselves ready for what was going to happen in the morning. You see, I think everybody in that entire camp, except for one man, went through that turmoil. And I think that one man, Achan, who took some of the things out of Jericho, he took a coat and some silver and some gold, and he took it and he hid it underneath his tent. He took what was God's. And what happened in the middle of that is, I can only imagine that night as Achan was sitting there, he said, well, maybe it was me. Maybe this small little stuff that I've got here, it was no big deal. There was tons and tons of gold and silver and all of that, but it was just a jacket and some money. That's all it was. It was just a small thing. And I can imagine he must have done one or two things. Either it said, I'm done in the morning because I know that they'll find me out, and I know I'll pay the consequences. Or he did the other thing, which I think I've done so many of the times. It's just a coat and a couple dollars. It's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. It was such a small amount. God couldn't really care.